Everyone, I'm Zach.
I'm Tyler, and you're watching Bridging the Gap.
All right, so today we have on Northeast Regional State Director Ross Connolly from Americans for Prosperity, and we're pretty much going to be talking about today of, well, why is everything so political? At least that's how I definitely would say from a Gen Z perspective of kind of what we see of everything has become so polarized and then politicized, and everything from the Olympics to I, weirdly enough, like our board of eds, our local governments, our things, our sports that we watch, pretty much everything. Um, and so, we would love for us to just kind of talk off. I know the Olympics occurred not too long ago, and Team USA men's hockey team. Ross, I know you watch a lot of hockey.
I do, and it's unfortunate. Literally everything gets put through a political lens nowadays. I think people are generally just totally exhausted by it. I loved, everyone was trying to go after the men's team, for political reasons for hockey, and then, I constantly remind people the internet is not a real place. In the great words of Dave Chappelle, Twitter ain't a real place. When you saw it in real life, they returned back to the U.S. Jack Hughes is, New Jersey Devil, but they were on the road. They went to Buffalo, which it was Pittsburgh. They went to Pittsburgh, which are big rivals, and the entire arena clapped for them. So Twitter ain't real life. Don't be online all the time. Go experience real life, because the average person did not care about that whole controversy. They were proud of our American boys and girls who went out and won the gold out in Italy.
No, exactly. Tyler, I don't know about you. I mean, I know we're similar in age, Gen Z. I felt like growing up a little bit that there has always been a little bit of division, and it's only gotten worse probably since 2016, I would say, in politics and just everyday life.
Yeah, I mean, I would say so. I mean, probably, since I started high school in 2014, that's when I started to, really notice the divide in sports and local politics, even school as well. I mean, going through college, there's always, a lot of everything's politicized now, and I feel like it shouldn't be that way. Especially with sports, it's supposed to be this unifying factor, and it just seems, especially in the professional sports world, where everyone wants to make a political station now.
I'm the old millennial on this panel. That I was 24 back then, so makes me feel old. So thanks for that.
Ross, I mean, even that, do you even remember, like, going back to even, like, the early 2010s, I guess you could say, is like, was there as much polarization in that sense? Like, even into, like, the dating world, as I'll put it, like, it's crazy how even, talking to anyone nowadays, especially in the, younger millennials to Gen Z, even weirdly enough, some Gen Alpha, I've been told, that, like, your politics plays a role into who, not only who you associate with, but who you'll even just talk to in general.
It really wasn't. I know people reminisce about, the days before smartphones and everything. It is true that it was not as divided. I think the internet has in social media algorithms have a huge part into it. You saw the polarization. Yes, there was Trump that was very polarizing, but that was around the same time that you saw just ubiquitous use of camera phones and smartphones. I didn't have a smartphone until I was a junior in college. So, like, I had this time, in the mid 2000s where it really wasn't. There was a lot of division. I got involved in politics because of the war in Iraq. I vehemently opposed the war in Iraq. That's what got me involved. And there was division around there, but it wasn't like you see today on every single issue on, what an Olympic athlete says or doesn't say. It's gotten extreme during the explosion of social media and these algorithms that they're pushing you things that you like and you believe. So you're only seeing stuff that you want to see, that confirms whatever political opinion you have. So I think that is kind of the cause, is people just being in these bubbles, unfortunately.
So it is, as my parents will tell you, it's the damn phones. I guess it is then.
I will say that social media is a great thing. Like it I think informs people a lot more. You know, you don't just rely on mainstream media anymore, but there's definitely a bad side to it where the politicization of everything. You know, everyone's an activist online now.
No, it's like I saw a tweet a week and a half ago, when it was on Saturday when we bombed Iran. Why didn't the U.S. men's hockey team come out and either support or against it? And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, I know that's satire, but like, I thought it was ridiculous. Someone tweeted, I was like, oh, what's the men's hockey team's opinion on this? And I was like, what?
Yeah, it's hard to tell what's satire nowadays.
Yeah, no, definitely. I know, Tyler, you and I were talking about the oh my gosh, the ice skater, Alyssa Liu, and the skier, the freestyle skier Eileen Gu. From both of them are Americans. You know, one representing Alyssa representing U.S. in figure skating, getting gold, and Eileen representing China though, in freestyle skiing. Have you guys seen like anything else on like the internet talking about that? Because I feel like that's been the most politicized thing that I've seen in the past like 2 weeks about the Olympics and different sports, really.
Well, didn't China, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was Eileen Gu, didn't China pay her to play for the Chinese team?
Pretty sure, yeah. I mean, I know that they, in general, they pay their athletes a couple millions in winnings if they do well for the country, as I was told. Ross, I don't know if you saw anything else on that.
It's ironic, isn't it, that you have someone who grew up enjoying American freedom of speech, all the great things about this country, almost none of which that the average Chinese citizen that isn't politically connected in China does not have. And, you know, she, yes, gets paid to go represent China. She kind of spat all over the U.S., even though she is a direct beneficiary of growing up in the United States. I think it's pretty ironic and a ridiculous situation. I think she was rightfully, dragged by a lot of Americans for abandoning her country and just for a paycheck, basically being a mouthpiece for the Chinese Communist Party, which is not friendly probably to any of her actual beliefs.
No. And then I saw all over Twitter, at least because Twitter is the best place to find anything anymore. I saw a lot of people hating on Alyssa as well, even though she's the American. She hasn't said anything about being political at all. She just went out there and represented America, was proud to be an American, grabbed the American flag immediately after winning, cried on the ice. Like I think she was also from New Jersey as well. So, small flex also from, we always New Jersey and Jack Hughes got Alyssa Liu, and, there's quite a few Olympians that have won gold that are from Jersey. But, I thought it was very interesting to see the almost tale of two cities, as we'll put it.
And just why do we have to have everybody's political opinion?
We don't.
Like, why has that suddenly become necessary that anyone that's ever done anything, well, what's your opinion on Iran, or what's your opinion on Trump's immigration policy? It's totally ridiculous. I've known people that, fought to get into the Olympics, some that made it, some that didn't. They have to work their entire lives to get to that point. They're all of them patriotic. They want to represent their country, and to put them in these political boxes is absurd, and I think disrespectful to the work that they put in to represent us. I was proud of all of them. I know a lot of them were probably left of center. I'm sure a good amount of them are left of center. I don't care. I don't care what their politics are. I'm just proud that they did a great job representing the U.S. in the Olympics and bringing home medals for us.
No, exactly. I mean, I almost feel like this kind of stems back to, the NFL and that whole scandal there, going back into the late 2010s and 2019, 2020, 2020, taking a knee for the flag and different things like that. Because I
That's
remember,
probably where it began.
yeah,
This is a good point.
I feel like that's because you look at Colin Kaepernick, and then you looked into then whole teams were doing this, and then it got to the collegiate level. And I remember when I was at Seton Hall, our coaches were like, "You're not doing anything about this. Like, you're not taking a knee. Just stand. I don't care. Whatever." Um, and they wouldn't. I know Ashley, our managing director at Jersey First. She went to a lot of her family members went to Villanova. Villanova actually took a knee, and then they all got a bunch of pushback from their fans on that.
Yeah, I'd say be the Michael Jordan. No one. I think Americans in particular are exhausted by the constant. What's your politics on this or that? Sports, especially, are a uniting thing, especially in America, especially football. It's a uniting thing for everyone. Why do we need to constantly divide? I think, well, part of it gets clicks, it gets views. If people say crazy things or something controversial happens, but it's not what people actually want to watch. They want to see athletes perform and have a moment where there isn't politics for once. I work in politics, and even I'm like, could you just shut up for a second? I'm trying to watch the Patriots in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
A lot of it too with professional sports is, in the post-game reporting. You have reporters come to you. They don't ask questions about the game anymore. They'll ask questions about current events going on in the world. And even a lot of the coaches, you can see by their reactions, and the players, they don't want to hear about that. They want to talk about, the heck of a game they just had. If they just won, if the Golden State Warriors just won by 20 points, they want to talk about the game. They don't want to talk about Iran and Syria and Israel. They just want to focus on the sport that they're playing.
Yeah, and you get these people, not saying he's not smart or anything. He definitely is. He's a great communicator, but weird to see these, sports commentators throw their hats in the ring for political office. I mean, Stephen A. Smith's talking about running for president. Like how is these two things combined now, where sports have become so political that we have figures in sports wanting to run for president?
I almost feel like that could almost stem a lot from Trump coming from non-politico, and then you saw Herschel Walker run for Senate in Georgia. You see a couple former athletes running for office as well. Oh my God, he's he actually was I think he was the former AFP director of Tennessee, or the city Knoxville mayor, I believe, too. He's a WWE star.
Oh, he didn't work for AFP, but it's
he was at All
Kane.
Staff years. Yes.
Yeah, it's Kane, the wrestler.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and his retirement, I mean, he's been a great politician, I'll say that.
Yeah.
I think he probably has some high aspirations for higher office, but that's an interesting, going from the entertainment world, maybe not the sports world with WWE, but it's just interesting to me to see these athletes or commentators. How do I increase my brand? Oh, I'm going to run for office. It worked out for Trump. I think you're right that Trump being a celebrity, not really a political figure, in having the success that he's had, I think has motivated a lot of people that there's a lot of people that look in the mirror. I always say every U.S. senator or governor looks in the mirror and sees a president. There's not a lot of humility in politics, probably attracts a lot of people.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, Tyler, I don't know if it's, you feel the same way, but I feel like in 2016, seeing Trump come down, love him or hate him though, Trump coming down those golden escalators in 2016, it made you feel like that anyone could run for president. And you didn't need to have these, you didn't need to be a lawyer. You didn't need to have a doctorate. I mean, you literally had a neurosurgeon running for president with that Dr. Ben Carson. I mean, you had you had Jeb Bush running. You had all these long-term, I'm not going to call them like Nepo babies, but they are long-term political, figures, and they're running for office on both parties. But then you have Donald Trump coming up out of here, out of nowhere. And I think that really created a phenomenon in our generation. And I think it really forced a lot of us to realize that, we could have a say in politics, and we could have a future of running for whatever.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I think a lot of it too was his approach. I remember I was a sophomore in high school, and for my US 1 class, we had to watch the Republican debate, and we had to write an essay on it. And that sort of what sparked my interest in politics, because I see this guy he's never been a politician, he's a businessman, and he came out and he was owning these establishment figures who have been in office for some of them 20 years in their entire lives. They've been groomed for this moment. And I think that, it sort of opened my eyes saying, like, anyone can, with a vision, can go in there and can make a difference.
Yeah, I think it was him getting away from, one thing about Trump was he talking like an average person, just one, being honest, back then in 2016, that moment with Jeb Bush. I'll never forget those debates. That was much must-watch TV back in 2015, 2016. But that was really the appeal, is like, he's not using political speak. I think it's a recipe for, anyone looking to run for an office like that in the future. I think it's why people like Stephen A. Smith are interested, because they see if you're a good communicator, you can talk like an average person. You can go super, super far and create these movements like Trump did. The typical politician, I mean, we saw this with Vice President Harris in the last election. People find it disingenuous. The old, repeated talking points. Now those get clipped up into videos where you sound like a robot. You can't do that anymore. It has to be off the cuff. So I think it's been a lesson for people. You have to be able to connect with the average person better than previous politicians.
Well, Tyler, I mean, yourself, you're an elected councilman in Stanhope. Do you think that played a role in like messaging or talking in your own races?
I think so. I mean, when I campaigned, it's, you go door to door in a small town like Stanhope, you talk to all your residents, you have a regular conversation with them. Like, if they have an issue, you just talk to them directly. You don't beat around the bush with it. You don't give them, the typical political rhetoric to them. You just speak to them, person to person. And if you want to be an attractive candidate, it's important to be personable. It's important to, be human, not robotic when you talk to someone. So, I think that definitely plays a big role.
And it's a lot of these sort of issues. I think, going back to like how I got started in politics, of why, we're seeing just shifts in the electorate constantly. People, shifting who they're voting for, which party they're voting for. And I think it's really because they have been let down by, and I think it contributes to the polarization, because if you're constantly voting to make my life more affordable, or to stop, these endless wars that we constantly get involved in. We're in yet another one now. If you're not seeing the results of what you're voting for, the frustration boils over, and people get more polarized, because they just don't trust that politicians are going to actually have their best interests in mind.
I almost feel like that definitely has been the case, especially for this past special election for CD11 for Governor Sherrill's seat in New Jersey. I mean, we have an outward socialist, Democratic socialist, who won the Democratic primary. I think that definitely played a role because of what she was promising. I mean, you look at Mamdani with the same thing. He's promising all these free things. Kathy Hochul's not going to let any of it happen, but he's promising all these free things. And I mean, I don't know. Maybe we'll see almost like the pendulum of politics going from one side all the way back over. I don't know if we'll see that in New York, but I could almost see that happening in a bit of the suburbs.
Yeah, we'll see how they feel when they get 9.5% property tax increases. I mean, that was his thing. He ran on affordability. All of them did. Mikey Sherrill as well, down in Virginia. The entire group of folks down there were running on affordability. What was the first things they did? They increased taxes. Like that's not making things more affordable. So you're gonna see there's always been this ping pong. If you look through American history, there's always been back and forth. There was a long time where the Democrats held the House. There was a long time where the Republicans held it, but generally things bounce back and forth, especially at top level offices. And but it's become more extreme in the past 10 years, in my mind. It just ping ponging back and forth. And I think it's really because the American public is so frustrated that they are not seeing what the folks ran on actually be delivered. They're not feeling the impact of these policies. And politicians just sort of dismissing, when they get in, then dismiss the concerns of people. That's the Joe Biden recipe. You don't want to do that. You want to see people where they are and understand the concerns they have, and try your best to communicate what you're trying to do, and sell it that way. Don't gaslight people. That's the big worry.
So talking on affordability, I mean, I know I have, as a 25-year-old, I have a bit of a pessimistic overview, I would say, almost sometimes on the American dream, especially New Jersey a little bit, just because of how unaffordable it is here. I mean, my grandparents came over in 1947 as refugees from World War II. Family farm was burned to the ground. Everyone was in a wag cab, got in a wagons, made our way westward to United States. And they built up the American dream to the point where I was the first one to go through college on my dad's side of the family in America. And they came over here, worked their butts off, doing odd jobs, farming, all the above, for myself and the rest of my cousins and my siblings to be able to be educated and to work up higher into, the American dream itself of what we want to be able to do, because we are the land of opportunity. But I don't know if that's something that, is attainable necessarily for our generation, Gen Z, and generations after us. So, Ross, I want to get your thoughts on, is the American dream still alive, or do you think we need to change it up a little bit?
I'm always an optimist. I always think there's hope. My generation of millennials, which gets the correct amount of complaints from people. We're not the greatest generation, that's for sure. But we at least had this time where we had I remember a time without computer, like home computers. So I was able to buy a house. The timing was just better for people my age. But I totally understand. I work with a lot of younger, Gen Z, Gen Alpha kids, and there's this just constant feeling like nothing's working for them. They're never going to be able to afford a house. Nothing's affordable. They'll be in rent, purgatory forever. I find it really depressing. Having my family was in real estate, during the 2008 crisis. Things happen, and you can rebound, and things get better. I understand that right now it's not great. Rents keep going higher. I mean, the average home cost is astronomical. I think there's some simple fixes that would go a long way. One, getting the government. The American dream was really about people taking risk, going out and taking risk for themselves and their family to make their lives better, not government giving them things. Getting government out of the way, so that people can take those risks that can contribute to their family, their well-being, and getting government out of the way to being able to build more homes. The inflation crisis, no matter what policy you focus on, it has been a government created crisis. We have inflation because they spent trillions of dollars at once during COVID. We have a housing crisis because we have red tape that is restricting developers from building more homes. Not to mention the boomer generation, my parents' generation, holding on to their homes because the taxes are too high. They won't sell their homes. So there's just these are government created problems. The hope is that just because they're government created doesn't mean there's not solutions. We can absolutely solve these problems. And I have faith that the American people will always focus on freedom first. That's in our blood, and I think we'll get there. It might take some time. It might take another crisis. I hope not, but those tend to be correction moments where things can get more affordable.
No, I know, Tyler. You obviously you pay rent, you do different things, but you and I were talking about buying a house, and because our good friend County Commissioner Jack DeGroot in Sussex, he just bought a house, but he also is a realtor himself. And so it's how do we, even out in Sussex where it is cheaper, our average property tax is like $6,000 for about an acre, I would say. Comparatively to the rest of the state where the average is over $10,000, it's how do we, how are we able to afford a starter home at $400,000? Where I can say my parents bought our house in 1997 for, as I like to say, 2 strawberries and a blueberry, but it is for $125,000, I believe. So it's how do you go from that to now where, our wages don't hit the same,
Yeah, I mean it's a tough world out there being a young person. I mean, really, all you can do for now is just keep working hard, keep saving your money, be smart with your spending. That's really all you can do right now. And then, hope for in the near future, certain tax cuts, certain benefits to help you out that way.
Well, Ross, I don't know if you saw, but I saw that I forget James. I think James Fishbeck. I think his first name is James. One of the Republican candidates for Florida governor. Apparently, Florida gives $380 million to Israel every year, but he wants to take that money and put it into a first-time home buyers and for young people for young families to buy a house. Do you think that would be? Is that more artificial inflation? Would that hurt the market any bit in Florida? What are your thoughts
not my favorite
policy-wise?
person, that's for sure. I think he puts blame in a lot of wrong places.
Yeah.
And again, I don't think that is the root of the problem. Right now, there is the American dream. If you go to states where they're doing well, you go to the Carolinas, you go to Austin, Texas, you go to Utah, Salt Lake City. The American dream is very within reach in those places. Housing costs have dropped substantially because they've been building a lot. So unfortunately, there's this division where people aren't feeling it, especially here in the Northeast, because we have these crazy governments that refuse to pivot when you can clearly see the positive direction that all these states that are growing, the steps that they've taken and the refusal by the leadership of these states in the Northeast to correct and actually look at those good policies and give them a try here in New Jersey. Unfortunately, all that innovation, all the opportunity, the economic growth that New Jersey used to be the leaders on. New Jersey invented everything. Just ask Grok or ChatGPT or whatever. What was invented in New Jersey? It was everything. But it was at a time where there was a light touch government. It was focused on helping innovators, getting the government out of the way, just letting them innovate and provide new products to consumers and have small businesses. Now, ask your average small business owner in New Jersey how easy it is to operate here. It's the government that's getting in the way. The American dream is alive and well. It's just not here in New Jersey, unfortunately.
And Ross, I always I want to ask this because I know we're coming up with time a little bit. I definitely going back to almost the polarization and politicization of everything. and even how it affects into the American dream. I was wondering if you can just leave our viewers with some key takeaways of, what we could, look forward to the future, possibly.
I'm always hopeful. I mean, it's tough with I got the news on above me here, and try to avoid that. That would be my number one recommendation. Stay off your phones. They're great for a lot of things, but don't. I tell everyone the world is a much better place than the internet and the news would lead you to believe. Put down the devices sometimes. Go talk to your neighbors. Go experience life without a screen. Everything's great. Everything's going fine. Yes, there's these problems that we need to tackle, but there is always hope. That I think there's a lot of forces, unfortunately, in this world that want you to believe that you are oppressed, that the world is terrible, that things are going terribly. It is not reality. Again, like how we let off, Twitter ain't a real place. X, whatever you want to call it, ain't a real place. Focus on building your communities on the issues that you want to see effectuated, that you want to see change in. Work with individuals, work with people face to face, and online, and build a movement to change that thing. You want lower taxes? Go demand it of your representative, your assembly person, your senator, your governor. You have more power than you think you have. Don't listen to these people. There are people that, one, they make money off of the division. They want to see more of it. It gets more clicks, more views. Doom scrolling is a thing. Don't give in to that. I'm very, very particular about if there's a video. One, be skeptical. Half of the stuff online is fake now. It's AI. It's not real. But also just being skeptical of any claims that people are putting out there. Don't have that emotional reaction. Put the phone down. Do research into the topic, but get out into the real world and talk to real people, and you can then make real changes. That's what has happened in these states that are doing well, that I think the American dream is alive and well. They went out and took action. They built movements, and they changed the direction of their states. Utah, New Hampshire, Texas, Florida were not always like this. It's been in the past 10 years that people stood up and said enough is enough and demanded change, and they got the change. So, be skeptical online and be in person in your community, so that you can see the changes that you want to see.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Ross, for being on our show. Thank you, everyone, for listening in. My big takeaway is let's go outside and touch grass for a little bit, and just ground ourselves. So, thanks, Ross, for being on today, and hopefully we'll have you on in the future as well.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys.